this is Heidi from Garden Crossings, and I wanted to take you for a walk through our northern Michigan garden. It is the beginning of July, and I just want to show you different changes that have happened since the last video up here, just to show you different transformation of the plants, where they're at and what they're currently looking like. So we're going to start off up here at the roadside, and this garden here is, a lot of what's in here was here when we got this place. There's a lot of ornamental grasses and irises and some daylilies. So basically what we've done in this space is just added a lot of annuals to give it just a splash of color. So in this garden we have the Suncredible sunflowers, the bubblegum supertunias, the Vista Paradise supertunia, and then we've put a couple of the Meteor Showers verbena in. Let's see, the purple is the Mini Vista Indigo. More Suncredible sunflowers, and just a lot of the supertunias. So right now the supertunias are flowering. They look nice. They do have potential to look a little bit nicer, and I think what we need to do is get a little bit of fertilizer on them to really get them to kind of thicken up and shoot off more flowers. But again, they don't look bad, but we know that they have potential to do a lot more blooms. So next time we will bring some fertilizer and get these babies juiced up with some fertilizer. On the other side of the driveway, we lined it with the white sun patience, and then behind the white sun patience, we have some Suncredible yellow sunflowers, along with the Wicked Witch Coleus, which is a little bit hidden in there, but you got to try different things to see how they do. We have some Kufia vermillionaire. We planted that for the hummingbirds. In this little corner here, those are the beacon begonias. So there's white and red, and then there's a little bit of blue salvia in there, although it's kind of getting taken over by the impatiens, but that's kind of a little patriotic planting. So also we put some Vista mini indigo in front of the red, white, and blue, just to really make that red, white, and blue be a little bit more apparent. More Kufia vermillionaire with some ornamental grasses behind. Wicked Witch Coleus. And then we have a trellis here, 3 trellises actually, that we have planted up. This first one here is the Jolly Good Clematis. And this was just planted last summer, so that's filling out really nicely. In the back there is the Happy Jack. It's kind of a really pretty purple. And then this one here had Viva Polonia, and it also has Pink Mink. So the Pink Mink hasn't started blooming, and the Viva Polonia is already finished. So I think I planted 2 different clematis on all of these trellises. That way when one's not blooming, hopefully the other will. So this is really kind of a very patriotic garden that we planted because it's the 4th of July weekend, and we added the flags in for that purpose. But we really wanted to kind of bring the red, white, and blue up to the front garden here. Let's head over to the other gardens and take a look how they're progressing. In the front garden here, we have a little space. This is all different cone flowers. I believe I have 4 different colors in there. And we lost one over the winter, so we replaced it with that one that's really blooming. But the others are not far behind. There's a lot of bud going on. So those will be really colorful, probably in the next week or so. In this front garden bed, we have a lot of annual color as these perennials are needing to mature yet. So we've got some Monarda in here. There's another pink one. Dianthus, which those are done blooming. In the back there, you'll see the white daisies. That's Daisy May. There's salvia that's been trimmed back. And we planted 2 of the Firelight Tidbit. There's one that was a quart last year, and there's the other. Those were planted in October from a quart, so they haven't been in the ground long. And then between the 2 white flowers by the house, that's going to be a bobo. So that'll get about 3 foot tall and fill in that space nicely. Around the white post, we have some of the Opening Act Ultra violet phlox, and they are done flowering. And then we have our lighted hanging basket. All right, these spaces here, they are pretty much out of color right now. They were blooming earlier on, pretty much like beginning of June. So we've trimmed a lot of these plants back. There's salvia in there, some lavender, some phlox. So we've trimmed them back so that they will hopefully give us a secondary bloom. This section here, we have Allium serendipity, wild rose heuchera, and then the Heliopsis Tuscan sun. And I want to show you, so here we trimmed this back, and do you see all that new growth coming? So we had 2 flowers, but hopefully by trimming, we'll now get maybe another 6 or so for this year. So it's definitely beneficial to trim your plants when they are done flowering. Tucked in this little window well, we have 3 clematis. We have, let's see here, Vivaplonia that was blooming earlier, and it looks like Jolly Good is done. And then there's also Sparky, and that hasn't started blooming yet. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that as the Sparky comes into color. So this garden was planted last fall, and there's a lot of color in it right now. Mostly it's petunias you're seeing in there. There's in the front, there's the new Jazzberry Vista Supertunia from Proven Winners. That's going to be new in 2022, so I wanted to put that right up front. There's some bubblegum behind it, and then Vista Paradise, the darker pink behind. The white you're seeing, those are Sun Patience white. And in this garden, the staple plants I have, there's a few shrubs. We have 3 Bobo hydrangeas, which are blooming right now, which is kind of early. So back in West Michigan, my Bobos aren't even near blooming yet. But here in this up north garden here in Michigan, the Bobos are really blooming nicely. So these are, again, were planted last fall, so they're very small. They're going to get about 3 foot tall, so about as tall as that retaining wall once they're mature. But right now they've done good for over the winter. We have a lot of the Invincible Mini Mauvettes planted here. These are not blooming quite yet, but these are some of the green shrubs that you're seeing. I think we've got about 5 or so of them in here, and they're planted on the sides and in front of the Bobo. We also have about 5 of the Pugster Blue growing in this garden, so those will probably be blooming hopefully in another month or so. And then I did kind of a wave pattern of cone flowers, so they're kind of just starting to show buds, a little bit of oranges and stuff, but I took about, I don't know, 8 different coneflower colors and just kind of waved them through the garden so that when they're blooming, it'll kind of create just a swath of color in all different colors. We have Monarda blooming, also some of the tall phlox. This here is the Opening Act Blush, and a little bit smaller version, Opening Act White. And then over on this side, we have Opening Act Ultraviolet, which is a newer variety. It's beautiful purple color. And also too, this is going to kind of show you a little bit of the path of coneflowers where you can see some of the blooms happening right now. And then some of the other is just going to be the green as it kind of weaves its way through the garden. In the very back corner of this garden, we did some spirea because I know they're deer resistant. And also in the very back corner, we planted Rosa Sharon. I think it's Purple Pillar we have back there. So hopefully that'll, once it fills out, it'll kind of create a block so that if we do have critters, they won't be able to get past that point and up into this garden. So we'll see. Everything's very trial and error here in this space, especially for us dealing with deer when we're thinking about and planting our garden. We're learning new things. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of give you little tidbits about what worked for us and what didn't with choices that we used in these spaces that we know there could be some deer, I guess you'd say grazing. All right, we're going to continue up the hill and take a look at a few more little spaces. So this lower level garden is a brand new garden. It started off looking like what we're looking at here in front of us, just kind of some green edging that went into the grass. And a lot of it looked just kind of like that mess going up the hill there. So Rod and Logan cleaned this area out, and then they built a beautiful retaining wall using these gray bricks. We had to try to match what we currently had, and that's pretty hard to do because these are giant retaining wall boulders, I guess. I don't know. So it's hard to match, but we decided to kind of go with the gray color and that was the best we could do, as fine as trying to make it match. But in this garden now, by creating this retaining wall, it's creating just a space, so we don't have to worry about runoff like what's happening here. This just creates a nice little pocket for these plants to be planted in. So what we did in this garden here is I found a really cool rose at one of the garden centers up here in northern Michigan. It's not blooming right now, but it's a really kind of a pretty hot pink color. So I wanted that in this garden. And so I've kind of created a balanced garden. On the other end, there's another rose. But let's take a look at what the plants are that are in this garden. So tucked in the very corner there, by this wall, which is going to get moved eventually, but for now that's just holding the dirt back. In the very back corner there is Allium serendipity. In the front is Asclepias tuberosa. We have that rose that I found. We have Asclepias hello yellow, the new Dicentra bleeding heart from Proven Winners. We've got Invincible ruby hydrangea. Bunch more of the Asclepias. We really wanted to let this be kind of a butterfly garden as well, because there's a lot of butterflies up here. So we see a lot of yellow swallowtails, so I'm hoping that we can find some monarchs and they'll find this garden, because there's a lot of host plants in here for the monarch butterfly. Tucked in the back there is Banana Cream 2, another one of the bleeding hearts. And this area is pretty sunny, and this particular bleeding heart is a bleeding heart that can handle full sun locations. So and it blooms all summer too, so that's really cool. Invincible ruby, some more of the Asclepias, more bleeding heart. Tucked in back there is a new for 2022 leucanthemum. We'll pop the name up on the screen. Asclepias, a beautiful wild rose heuchera. And then to balance it out, we have the at last rose on this end with a pulmonaria and more of the Allium serendipity and a hosta. So I know that hosta will probably become deer food, but the funny thing is they haven't touched it so far in this garden. So I'm not sure. We'll see. It's kind of a test. I know that it may not be in its forever home, or it might just get replaced, but I'm really trying to test like what the deer population is going after here and how bad the population is with what they're going to eat here in my garden. So yeah, I'm really proud of Rod and Logan for what they did in this space. It looks nice. And we have a whole nother garden on the other side of the drive that we'll have to try to do something like this in when we get over and have time to work in that space. This is Heidi from Garden Crossings.